In the quiet moments of life when the noise of the world softens and the heart begins to listen, there arises a question that many fear to ask. Why does fortune pass me by even when I walk the path with sincerity? It is not always the effort that is lacking, nor the intention that is weak. Sometimes the roots of our misfortune lie deeper, hidden in the unseen threads of ancestry, carried silently through time like a shadow that follows without sound. There is a presence often unrecognized, a silent force that feeds not on wealth itself but on the flow of it. This is the luck thief, not a being of form, but a pattern, a disturbance in the harmony between your spirit and the inheritance of those who came before you. It does not steal coins from your hand, it diverts the river before it reaches your shore. There are signs, subtle yet powerful, that reveal this disturbance. The first sign is the cycle of near success. You walk toward opportunity, you feel its warmth, you almost touch its light, and then without reason it fades. Again and again, doors open just enough to give hope, but close before you can step through. This is not coincidence. It is like planting seeds in fertile soil only to have unseen roots choke their growth. This pattern often arises when unresolved burdens from the past remain unhealed. The efforts of the present cannot fully bloom when the past still whispers in unrest. The second sign is the weight of unexplained heaviness. You may find that your energy drains without cause, your motivation fades even when your mind is clear. It is as though you carry a load that you did not choose. This heaviness is not always your own. It can be the echo of forgotten struggles, unspoken grief, or broken balances carried through generations. When these energies remain unacknowledged, they seek expression through those who are sensitive enough to feel them. The third sign is the pattern of sudden loss. Just when stability begins to form, it is disrupted, money disappears, plans collapse, relationships strain under invisible pressure. These repeated disruptions are like waves striking the same shore, again and again, reshaping what you try to build. It is not punishment, but imbalance seeking resolution. But understand this clearly, what is carried can also be released. What is inherited is not a prison, it is a message. To reclaim your fortune, you must begin not with resistance, but with awareness. Sit in stillness and observe your life without judgment. Patterns will reveal themselves like reflections in calm water. Do not turn away from what you see. Acceptance is the first step toward transformation. Then, bring honor to those who came before you, not through blind reverence, but through conscious acknowledgement. Speak gratitude for their existence, even if their paths were filled with struggle. In doing so, you separate their journey from your own, allowing what is yours to flow freely again. Next, cleanse your inner world. Let go of resentment, fear, and the belief that you are bound by unseen chains. These thoughts are the doors through which imbalance enters. Replace them with clarity and intention. When the mind becomes still and steady, it no longer feeds the patterns that drain it. Finally, take action with presence. Fortune is not something to chase, it is something to align with. When your thoughts, your actions, and your inner state move in harmony, the flow of life returns naturally. The river does not need to be forced, it only needs to be unblocked. Remember this, the luck thief has no power of its own. It exists only where there is unconscious repetition and unresolved energy. The moment you bring light to it, it begins to dissolve. You are not here to carry the shadows of the past without end. You are here to transform them, to bring balance where there was imbalance, and to allow the flow of abundance to return not just for yourself, but for all who are connected to you. In this way, reclaiming your fortune is not an act of taking back what was lost. It is the quiet awakening to the truth that it was never truly gone, only waiting for you to see clearly, to release gently, and to walk forward without the weight of what no longer belongs to you. The luck thief is a hidden pattern. Not a physical force, it represents unseen ancestral imbalances and unconscious cycles that quietly block the natural flow of success and abundance. The idea of the luck thief is not something that exists as a physical being or a visible force moving through your life, taking things away from you with intention. It is far more subtle, far more quiet, and therefore far more powerful. It is a pattern, an invisible current that flows beneath your actions, shaping outcomes in ways that are often misunderstood. Many people spend years blaming circumstances, other people, or even themselves for a lack of success, never realizing that what they are experiencing is not simply bad luck, but a repetition of deeper imbalances that have not yet been brought into awareness. This pattern does not begin with you alone. Just as a tree grows from roots that were planted long before its branches reach the sky, your life is connected to a past that extends beyond your personal experiences. Within that connection, there can be harmony, but there can also be disturbance. When certain struggles, fears, or unresolved energies are carried forward without being understood or released, they begin to express themselves as recurring limitations. These limitations do not announce their presence loudly. Instead, they quietly influence decisions, reactions, and even the opportunities that seem to appear or disappear in your life. The luck thief operates through this quiet repetition. It feeds on unconscious habits, on beliefs that were never questioned, and on emotional patterns that continue without interruption. For example, a person may believe they are not worthy of success, not because of something they consciously decided, but because this belief was formed through layers of past experiences, some of which may not even be their own. This belief then shapes their actions in subtle ways: hesitation at the moment of opportunity, doubt when confidence is needed, or fear when risk must be taken. Over time, these small moments create a larger pattern, one that appears as if fortune itself is being taken away. What makes this pattern so difficult to recognize is that it feels natural. It becomes familiar, almost comfortable in its predictability. A person may begin to expect disappointment, to prepare for failure even when success is possible. In doing so, they unknowingly participate in the very cycle that limits them. The flow of abundance is not blocked by an external force, but by an internal alignment that has been shaped over time. Yet, there is an important truth that must be understood. Anything that is a pattern can be changed. The luck thief has no independent existence. It cannot act on its own, and it cannot survive without the continuation of unconscious behavior. The moment awareness is brought to it, its influence begins to weaken. When a person starts to observe their thoughts, their reactions, and the recurring situations in their life, they begin to see patterns and connections that they may not have noticed before. They begin to see the connections that were once hidden. This awareness is not about blame. It is not about judging the past or feeling burdened by it. Instead, it is about seeing clearly. When you see clearly, you no longer act blindly. You begin to make choices that are not dictated by old patterns, but guided by present understanding. In that moment, the cycle is interrupted. The flow that once seemed blocked begins to open, not because something was added, but because something unnecessary was finally released. In this way, the luck thief is revealed for what it truly is: not an enemy to fight, but a shadow created by lack of awareness. And like all shadows, it disappears when light is allowed to enter. Repeated near success is a major sign. When opportunities come close but never fully materialize, it indicates deeper unresolved influences affecting your path. There are moments in life when everything seems to align just enough to awaken hope. An opportunity appears, a connection forms, a path begins to open, and for a brief time it feels as though the long-awaited change is finally within reach. You prepare yourself, you take steps forward, and you begin to believe that this time will be different. Yet, just as your hand moves to grasp what is in front of you, something shifts. The door that was open begins to close, the opportunity fades, or circumstances change in a way that cannot easily be explained. What remains is not failure in the obvious sense, but something more subtle, a pattern of almost. This repeated experience of near success carries a quiet weight. It is not as loud as sudden loss, nor as clear as complete failure, but over time it begins to shape the way you see yourself and the world around you. You may start to question your abilities, wondering if you are missing something that others seem to understand. You may begin to hesitate, holding back a part of your effort because a voice within whispers that the outcome will be the same as before. This hesitation, though small, becomes part of the cycle, reinforcing the very pattern that created it. The nature of this pattern is not random. It often arises from deeper layers of conditioning, beliefs, and emotional imprints that were formed long before the present moment. These imprints can come from personal experiences, but they can also be influenced by the environment in which you were raised, the struggles witnessed, and the unspoken fears that were carried by those around you. When such influences are not recognized, they continue to operate beneath the surface, shaping your responses in ways that feel automatic. For example, if there is a deeply rooted fear of loss, even success can feel unsafe. At the moment when things begin to go well, an inner tension may arise. Without realizing it, you may withdraw slightly, delay an important decision, or approach the situation with doubt instead of clarity. These small shifts are often enough to alter the outcome. From the outside, it may appear that circumstances simply did not work out, but within there was a subtle movement away from completion. This is why the pattern of near success can be so persistent. It is not that opportunities are absent, in fact, they appear again and again. The challenge lies in the ability to remain fully present and aligned when they do. To move beyond this cycle, one must begin by observing it without resistance. Each time a similar situation arises, instead of reacting with frustration or disappointment, take a moment to look more closely. Notice your thoughts, your emotions, and the decisions you make in those critical moments. Awareness creates space. In that space, there is a choice, a chance to respond differently than before. It may feel unfamiliar at first, even uncomfortable to act without the influence of old expectations. But it is within this discomfort that transformation begins. When you allow yourself to move forward without pulling back, to trust without immediate doubt, you begin to break the pattern. Gradually, the cycle of almost begins to dissolve. Opportunities no longer stop at the edge of completion because you are no longer stepping away from them unconsciously. What once felt like something being taken from you is revealed as something that was never fully received. And as this realization deepens, the path ahead becomes clearer, not because it has changed, but because you are finally walking it without the weight of hesitation. Unexplained emotional or energetic heaviness, feeling drained or burdened without clear reason, may come from inherited emotional weight or unresolved past struggles. There are times when a person wakes in the morning already feeling tired even though the body has rested. The mind may be clear, the day may hold no obvious burden, yet there is a quiet heaviness that lingers, as if something unseen is pressing gently but persistently upon the spirit. This feeling does not come with a clear cause. It cannot be easily explained or pointed to. It simply exists, shaping the way you move, the way you think, and the way you respond to the world around you. This unexplained heaviness is often misunderstood. Many believe it to be weakness, lack of discipline, or a temporary emotional state that will pass on its own. But when it returns again and again, even in moments when life appears stable, it begins to reveal itself as something deeper. It is not always created by present circumstances. Sometimes it is the echo of unresolved energy, feelings that were never expressed, struggles that were never fully understood, and burdens that were carried silently over time. Human beings are not isolated from the past. Just as stories, traditions, and values are passed from one generation to another, so too are emotional patterns. These patterns do not need words to travel. They exist in behaviors, in reactions, and in the subtle ways people learn to face or avoid life's challenges. When fear, grief, or hardship is not processed fully, it does not disappear. Instead, it becomes quiet and settles beneath the surface, waiting for a space where it can be felt again. For someone who is sensitive to these deeper layers, this inherited weight can feel like a personal burden. Even though its origins may not be entirely their own, it may show itself as a lack of motivation when there is no clear reason to feel unmotivated, or as a sense of emotional fatigue even in the absence of stress. At times it may feel as though you are carrying more than your share, as if your energy is being slowly drained by something you cannot see or name. This experience can lead to confusion and self-doubt. You may question your strength, wondering why simple tasks feel heavier than they should. You may compare yourself to others who seem to move through life with ease, not realizing that what you are carrying is not always visible from the outside. This misunderstanding can deepen the heaviness, adding layers of frustration and discouragement. But there is an important truth within this experience. What is felt can be understood, and what is understood can be released. The first step is not to push the feeling away, but to turn toward it with quiet attention. Instead of resisting the heaviness, allow yourself to sit with it, to notice its presence without judgment. In doing so, you begin to separate your awareness from the weight itself. As awareness grows, the feeling often begins to shift. It may not disappear immediately, but it becomes less overwhelming. You start to recognize that the heaviness is not your identity, it is something passing through your experience. This realization creates space, and within that space there is the possibility of release. Simple acts of presence can begin this process. Breathing with intention, spending time in stillness, or expressing emotions that have long been held back can gradually lighten the internal load. It is not a sudden transformation, but a gentle unfolding. Each moment of awareness loosens the grip of what was once tightly held. Over time, the unexplained heaviness begins to lift. Energy returns, not because something new was added, but because something old was finally allowed to leave. And in that lightness, there is a quiet clarity, a sense that what once felt like a permanent weight was only a passing shadow, waiting for the moment it could be seen and released. Cycles of sudden loss and instability. Repeated disruptions in finances, plans, or relationships suggest an imbalance that continues to repeat itself. There are moments when life begins to feel steady, when the ground beneath your feet seems firm and reliable. You build something with care, perhaps it is financial stability, a meaningful connection, or a plan that promises a better future. You invest your time, your energy, and your hope into it, watching it slowly take shape. And just as it begins to feel secure, something unexpected happens. The structure weakens, the stability breaks, and what you created begins to slip away. This experience, when it repeats again and again, becomes more than simple misfortune. It forms a pattern of sudden loss that is both confusing and deeply unsettling. What makes this pattern difficult to understand is its timing. Loss does not come when things are already fragile, it often appears at the moment when strength is beginning to form. This creates a sense of unpredictability, as though something unseen is interrupting your progress just as it begins to take hold. Over time, this can lead to a quiet fear of stability itself. Even when things are going well, a part of you may remain cautious, waiting for the moment when everything might change again. This repeated disruption is not always the result of external forces alone. While circumstances play their role, there is often a deeper imbalance that shapes how situations unfold. Just as a structure built on an uneven foundation cannot remain steady for long, the things we create in life are influenced by the inner state from which they arise. If there are unresolved patterns within fear of loss, uncertainty about worth, or an expectation that stability will not last, these patterns can subtly influence actions and decisions in ways that are not immediately visible. For instance, when something begins to grow, there may be an unconscious tension that arises within you. A thought may appear quiet but persistent, suggesting that what you have gained could be taken away. This thought does not remain alone, it begins to influence behavior. You may become overly cautious, holding back where you once moved freely. Or you may act too quickly, trying to secure everything at once, creating pressure where patience is needed. In some cases, you may even distance yourself from what you have built, as if preparing for its loss before it happens. These small shifts, though subtle, can change the course of events in powerful ways. The pattern of sudden loss, then, is not only about what happens externally. It is also about the relationship you have with what you are creating. When this relationship is shaped by fear or imbalance, it becomes difficult for stability to remain. The cycle continues not because loss is inevitable, but because the conditions that support lasting growth have not yet been fully established. To move beyond this pattern, it is necessary to bring awareness to these inner movements. Instead of focusing only on what is lost, begin to observe what happens within you when things are going well. Notice any tension, any hesitation, or any urge to control or withdraw. These are the points where the pattern begins to form. By recognizing them early, you create an opportunity to respond differently. Cultivating steadiness within becomes essential. This does not mean forcing yourself to feel secure, but allowing yourself to remain present even when uncertainty arises. Trust is not built by ignoring fear, but by seeing it clearly and choosing not to be guided by it. When your actions are no longer driven by the expectation of loss, the foundation beneath what you create becomes more balanced. With time, the cycle begins to change. Stability no longer feels temporary, and growth is not interrupted in the same way. What once appeared as repeated loss reveals itself as a pattern that can be understood and transformed. And in that understanding, there is a quiet strength in knowing that what you build can endure. Not because life is free from change, but because you are no longer shaping it from a place of imbalance. Awareness, acceptance, and inner alignment are the solution. By recognizing patterns, honoring the past, releasing negativity, and acting with clarity, you restore the natural flow of fortune. The path to reclaiming what feels lost does not begin with force, nor with a desperate attempt to chase after fortune as if it were something running away from you. It begins in a quieter place, one that many overlook because it does not promise immediate results. It begins with awareness, the simple yet profound act of seeing clearly. Without awareness, even the greatest effort can move in circles. With it, even small steps begin to carry direction and meaning. To become aware is not just to notice what is happening around you, but to observe what is happening within you. It is to sit with your thoughts, your reactions, and your patterns without immediately trying to change them. Many people try to fix their lives without first understanding them, and in doing so, they unknowingly repeat the same movements that led them to their current situation. Awareness interrupts this repetition. It brings light to what was once automatic, allowing you to see the connections between your inner state and your outer experiences. As this awareness deepens, it naturally leads to acceptance. This is often misunderstood. Acceptance is not resignation, nor is it agreeing with everything that has happened. It is the willingness to acknowledge reality as it is, without resistance or denial. When you resist what is already present, you create tension, and that tension clouds your perception. But when you accept what is, even if it is uncomfortable, your mind becomes clearer. In that clarity, you begin to see not only the problem, but also the path forward. There is a quiet strength in acceptance. It allows you to stop fighting shadows and start working with what is real. You begin to understand that the patterns in your life are not punishments, but signals, indicators of where attention is needed. This shift in perspective is powerful. It transforms frustration into curiosity and helplessness into possibility. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, you begin to ask, what is this showing me? And in that question, the door to change opens. From awareness and acceptance arises the possibility of alignment. Alignment is not something you force, it is something that emerges when your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions begin to move in harmony. When there is conflict within, when you think one thing, feel another, and do something else, your energy becomes scattered. Effort is spent, but results remain inconsistent. But when there is alignment, even simple actions carry a sense of ease and flow. To cultivate this alignment, it is important to act with presence. This means giving your full attention to what you are doing rather than being pulled by past regrets or future fears. Each moment becomes an opportunity to choose consciously rather than react automatically. These choices may seem small, but over time they reshape the direction of your life. The patterns that once held you begin to loosen, not because you fought them directly, but because you stopped feeding them. Letting go is also part of this process. Many hold on to beliefs, fears, and expectations long after they have served any purpose. These attachments create resistance, and resistance blocks the natural flow of growth. To let go is not to lose something valuable, it is to release what is no longer needed so that something new can take its place. This requires trust, to trust that life is not working against you, but responding to the state from which you engage with it. As awareness, acceptance, and alignment come together, something begins to shift. The effort you once struggled with starts to feel lighter. Opportunities no longer seem distant or fragile. Instead, they appear as natural extensions of your state of being. Fortune in this sense is not something you reclaim by force. It is something that returns when the obstacles within are gently removed. In the end, the journey is not about becoming someone new, but about returning to a state of clarity that was always within you. What felt lost was never truly taken, it was simply hidden beneath layers of unconscious patterns. And as those layers fall away, what remains is a quiet sense of balance, a flow that does not need to be chased, because it arises naturally when you are fully present, fully aware, and fully aligned with yourself.